Venerable Namjong was born in Hawaii and, what should I say, also raised over there?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
My mom did a good job.
And he's been living in India for over, I think, 12 years now?
India for 14 years.
14 years.
Set
Sorry.
up for 12.
Set up for 12, okay. He studied and trained in Zen Buddhism and Theravadan traditions before embracing the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. He holds a BA in philosophy from Princeton University and is now in the 12th year of the Geshe study program at Serajay Monastery in Avalokiteshvara, India. He is a registered teacher of FPMT and teaches regularly at CKSL Center in Bangalore. Today, Venerable Namjong is going to give a discourse on the Mahayana mind training. I think we are going to pick up the threads from the previous talk, the 8 verses for training the mind, if I'm not mistaken.
I hope so.
Yeah. So we are very happy and honored to have you with us once again, and I'm sure it will be very enlightening for all of us. Thank you.
So, the last time, actually of the root text itself, I think we only got through one verse. Okay. So you all have in front of you this text, do you?
Most people have.
So before we get started, the great Tibetan master Lama Tsongkhapa, he said, it's not enough that the teachings be Mahayana, but our motivation also needs to be Mahayana. Okay. So here we are, Tushita Mahayana Meditation Center. We have the name of this text, the ever-flowing nectar of Mahayana thought training, right? So, again, what makes something Mahayana is actually our motivation, the mindset, the kind of intention that we bring to the teachings, to our practice. Okay? So we'll get into this more throughout the teaching, but just at the beginning, especially in this tradition, the Lamas, encourage us again and again to do what is called adjusting our motivation. So whenever a Tibetan teacher or Tibetan Lama is giving teachings, he or she will begin by saying, it's time to adjust our motivation. So please think that the purpose of my life is to benefit all sentient beings. And in order that I may be able to benefit sentient beings in the best way possible, I myself must first achieve the highest state of my potential, that of full enlightenment. Then and only then will I be able to help and guide sentient beings in the most effective way. And therefore, since I need to become enlightened, I need to then learn about all the practices that lead to the state of enlightenment. And therefore, I've come to this teaching tonight. And then think that due to whatever positive energy or merit that we create in our time together tonight, may that only become the cause for all sentient beings, vast as the vastness of space, to achieve that state of enlightenment. Okay? Okay. So, let's just jump into it, okay? Now, I will say this as a disclaimer at the beginning. I was told I get 2 hours with you guys, okay? So it was 6 to 8 on the whatever went out, right? We started at 6:30, okay? So can I get 2 hours with you? Okay, great. I'm trying to cover the whole path to enlightenment. Okay. I'm not even sure I'll be able to do it in 2 hours, but for sure, if you just give me 90 minutes, very, very difficult, okay? So, Okay. So I will, if you have this, does anyone need a copy? Because I actually have it electronically. I can give this to someone. Yeah? Could you pass this back there? The marvels of technology. Okay, so I'll kind of do this commentary in a quasi Tibetan style, go through the words of the text, explain the words, and then a few times I'll pause and just start talking about what's on my mind. Okay? All right. So again, in the Tibetan tradition, I think they're following the Indians on this, but a lot of time is put into explaining the meaning of the title of the texts, right? So when we studied in the monastery, the Abhisamaya Alamkara, which is a commentary on the Prajnaparamita, then a lot of energy and time is devoted into what the Prajnaparamita is, what it means to be a Shastra versus a Sutra, and all these different things. So I'm a product of that, so I will explain this as well. So the ever-flowing nectar of Mahayana thought training, okay? So in general, all of the Buddhist teachings can be seen as thought training, or sometimes it is also called mind training. In Tibetan, Lojong, right? And within the Buddhist world, a lot of emphasis is put on the mind because, as it says in the Dhammapada, that the mind is the forerunner of all. And then the Buddha gives an analogy, just like an ox that pulls a cart, the cart follows wherever the ox goes, right? In a similar way, then our experiences of happiness and suffering, follow the mind, right? So, also it says in the Dhammapada, do not commit a single negative action, accumulate a host of virtuous actions to thoroughly subdue one's own mind. This is the teaching of Buddha. Okay. So, in general, and let me just give you some more quotations. Then in the Mula Madhyamika by Nagarjuna, actually the last stanza, after Nagarjuna composed the whole text, he pays homage to Buddha by saying, enthused by great compassion, you taught the holy Dharma to overcome all wrong views. To Gautam Buddha I prostrate. Okay. So all of these stanzas just show, the primacy of the mind and training the mind within Buddhism and the Buddha Dharma. So the stanza by Nagarjuna, enthused by great compassion or motivated by great compassion. Okay. So compassion is the wish that others be free from suffering. So this motivation of compassion is what is underpinning or underlying every single one of the Buddha's actions. Okay? So in everything that he's doing, he wishes sentient beings to be free from suffering. But, although he wishes them to be free from suffering, then, as it says in another sutra, that the Buddhas do not wash away our sins with water, nor do they remove their suffering with their hands, nor do they transfer their realizations to another mind stream, but the Buddhas liberate sentient beings through teaching the reality. Okay? So here, it's not just enough to wish sentient beings be free from suffering, or wish that others be free from suffering. The Buddha then inquired, why are we suffering? Okay? What is the fundamental cause of our suffering? and then seeing that, at the root of it, it is, taught the Holy Dharma to overcome all wrong views. These wrong views, these distorted views of reality, form the root cause, the basis for all of our suffering. So if we want to be free from suffering, then we need to overcome these wrong and mistaken, distorted views, right? There's no other way. So seeing this mechanism of how sentient beings suffer, and seeing that the root is our distorted views, then the Buddha taught the Holy Dharma to help us overcome those wrong views. Okay? So because of that, then, all of our training in the path is to work with the mind, right? We're not, although some of you do prostrations, right? The fundamental transformation that has to happen is in our minds, right? Therefore, all of the Buddha Dharma is thought training or mind transformation of one type or another. Okay? But now we have Mahayana thought training. Okay? So if all the Buddha Dharma is thought training, then what is the distinguishing characteristic of Mahayana thought training? Okay? So now, here, you Sanskrit scholars, or even you don't have to be a Sanskrit scholar to know, but we have Maha being great, and Yana is vehicle. Okay? So this kind of analogy of the vehicle appears, and we have the Mahayana, we have the Hinayana. Okay? But vehicle, the significance is just like a normal vehicle will take us from a particular place to a certain destination, right? Then our spiritual practice is likened in the same way, right? That we use the vehicle of training in a certain way to arrive at a certain spiritual destination or set of realizations. Okay? So what makes the Maha, or what puts the Maha in Mahayana, right, is what I was trying to emphasize at the beginning of the teaching here, where our motivation is encompassing all sentient beings. Okay? So because our motivation is to benefit all sentient beings, right? All sentient beings is Maha. Okay? Then any of the virtuous practices that we undertake with that thought, with that desire to benefit all sentient beings, then its power is multiplied, magnified by as many sentient beings as there are. And therefore, the result is also Maha. If you have great causes, you get a great result. Okay? So here, the greatness of the result is complete enlightenment. Okay? We'll get to this a little bit down, but here we need to differentiate, right, between the end points, the destinations of the various vehicles, right? So in the so-called Hinayana, one's motivation is to attain liberation from samsara. Not just, but for oneself. Okay? Right. So even, if we look historically, there was the Buddha, and then the great disciples of Buddha like Shariputra, Moggallana, right? So Ananda and so forth, they had a different level of realization than the Buddha. Right? And so the state that Shariputra attained, we call the state of being a Hinayana Arhat. Okay? Arhat, foe destroyer, Dra Chompa in Tibetan. Okay? So foe destroyer, who is the foe? The afflictive emotions, the klesha. Okay? These afflictive emotions, or the klesha, is the root cause for our, repeated birth, cycle of rebirth within samsara. Okay? So again, echoing this emphasis on cause and effect, right? If you want a certain effect, you have to accumulate the cause. If you don't want a certain effect, you have to abandon the cause. So even samsara is a causative phenomenon. It is produced from causes and conditions. Those causes and conditions are karma and klesha, or afflictive emotions. So if we want to be rid of the result of samsara, we need to get rid of the causes. And within the two, between the two, karma and afflictions, then actually the afflictions are the primary cause. Okay? Without getting into it too much, okay? But just to give some of you a sense of the actual mechanism with which we cycle within samsara. There's a cushion front and center too. Anyway, okay. So normally we talk of samsara being the cycle of uncontrolled rebirth due to karma and afflictions. Okay? You understand? The cycle of uncontrolled rebirth, right? We don't choose where we're reborn, but rather our karma and our afflictions project us to take another rebirth. Okay? So it's important to know that then samsara isn't a place, right? It's not like, I don't know, Delhi. I know maybe the pollution is a bit better these days. I know some people, I just heard some friends of mine, they got sick and tired of living in Delhi. They moved to Dehradun, right? The cool mountain air, right? Yeah? So that's nirvana? No, unfortunately. It's not that easy. So, samsara is not a place, but rather to get rid of samsara, we need to get rid of the causes. Because it's like this, at the time of our death, if we don't if we haven't achieved nirvana in this life, in this body, then close to the time of our death, one of the karmic imprints that we've accumulated either in this life or on one of our previous lives will get activated by the afflictions, right? So if we abandon the afflictions in this life, then although we have many other karmic imprints, it'll be like a seed that never meets with moisture, heat, fertilizer, and so forth. It'll never produce a sprout, right? Okay? Oh, I thought you had a question. Jesus, okay? So therefore, of the two causes of samsara, the primary one is the afflictions. Okay? So then these arhats, these Himalayan arhats, have abandoned the afflictive emotions. Okay? And therefore they never have to take rebirth in samsara again. Okay? But that's not the same as the, Samyak Sam Buddha, or the full, complete enlightenment that Shakyamuni Buddha attained. So basically, again, without getting too deep into it, in the Buddhist worldview, the Mahayana Buddhist worldview, the Buddha is omniscient. Okay, the Buddha is all-knowing, but is not all-powerful, not omnipotent. Okay, so there are many stories, but one that you'll see in the Lama teachings is there is one older gentleman. He was 80 years old, and he was living with his family. And his family was abusing him, right? Ageism, okay? And he got really sick of it, and he just wanted to leave his family. And then, the monks, they had a monastery nearby. He thought he could go to the monastery, ordain, and then, hanging out with Buddhist monks. They're not going to criticize me. They're nice people, right? So he goes to the monastery, and he asks Shariputra, who is one of the most famous, renowned disciples of Buddha. Shariputra, I want to ordain. Will you ordain me? So Shariputra, he had already become an arhat, attained nirvana. He had clairvoyance that could see, many eons in the past. But he refuses to ordain this older gentleman. And he says, because I don't see that you have created any root of virtue to ordain. So, can you imagine? This man is rejected by his family, abused by his family. He then goes to the Buddha's main disciple and is again rejected. So he's totally distraught, totally depressed. He then goes to the river and he's going to commit suicide. He says, forget it, If even, the Buddha's Sangha won't take me, there's no hope for me. So right before he's about to, jump in the river and put an end to his life, the Buddha, through his powers of omniscience and clairvoyance, sees what's going to happen and miraculously appears, goes to that place, and they start to have a conversation. And the man relates the story of his family and Shariputra rejecting him. And the Buddha says, well, Shariputra is a great master, no doubt, but he hasn't attained, the omniscient mind like I have. And actually, you have attained the root of virtue that would allow you to become a monk. How's that? Because in one of his past lives, there's different versions of the story, but one is, in one of this older gentleman's past lives, he was born as a fly, and then a cow was walking around the stupa, and the cow, as cows do, was, plopping, right? And flies, they love the plops. So each time the cow was going around, then the fly following, then made one kora, or one circumambulation of the stupa. And by that root of virtue, then was able to ordain. Okay? And in that very lifetime, that man became an arhat. Okay? Have you heard that story before? Okay. Lama Zopa Rinpoche is very fond of telling that story in relation to the importance of holy objects. Okay. So you see, normally what determines whether an action is virtuous or non-virtuous is the motivation with which we undertake it. But here, there is this fly, right? There is this fly, and actually, the motivation was that of attachment, right? So, cow dung to a fly is an object of attachment, okay? You understand? So with that object of, with that motivation of attachment, then just trying to, not even knowing that there's a stupa, right? Not even caring, just totally just going after the cow dung. Through the power of the object, because the stupa is a representation of the holy mind of the Buddha, then that was enough for it to be an extremely virtuous action. So then there's no need to mention if we then, with a bodhicitta motivation, then go around a stupa. Then amazing, right? Do you guys, around the corner, you still have that stupa set up? So every time, just to kind of advertise, every time you come, just do a few rounds and before you take a seat. Unbelievable purification, unbelievable source of merit, right? And actually, how they've done it, you know, all those little satsas, right? There might be 200, right? Then every time you go around once, there's 200 causes of enlightenment. Anyway, a little bit of advertisement. Okay. All right. So in any case, Rinpoche is fond of telling that story in relation to telling about the importance of holy objects, but where it shows up in the Lamrim teachings is showing the kind of uncommon characteristics of Buddha, right? That the Buddha could see this very subtle karma that even Shariputra could not see. And this, by the way, is the reason why we need to become enlightened, right? Because only when we have that full realization can we see each individual, you know, disposition, mind stream, karma, and then and only then can we give them the proper instruction that will be most beneficial for their attainment of liberation and enlightenment. You see, Shariputra, although he was a great master, that was a mistake, right? He said, go away. You can't become a monk, right? Because he was still limited in his level of realization. Okay? So anyway, Mahayana, that's the Maha. Maha is from 3 standpoints, right? Maha, because the cause is encompassing all sentient beings, right? Therefore, the accumulation of merit is great, and because the causes then are great, the effect is great. That of full enlightenment, the omniscient mind. Okay. So now, what makes then the thought training Mahayana is, well, we need to develop this wish not just to attain that personal liberation for ourselves, but to attain full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. So that might sound easy. Does it? No, okay. Then that's gonna have to convince you it's not. But let me say, if you don't think it's easy, good. I'm going to tell you why it's positively hard. Okay? Because you see, we have to understand, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, but see, the nature of samsara is, I think Guru Padmasambhava has said, it's like sitting at the tip of a needle, right? No matter what you do, there's no comfort to be found, right? No matter what we do in samsara, there's no actual happiness there, okay? So it's actually should be seen like a blazing fire pit. Anywhere we go in samsara, okay? Now, for us, we don't really think like that, right? We think that our problems are, we never get to the root of it. It's very superficial. Like, why am I unhappy? Oh, because, my boss was doing this, or my, whoever, my neighbor was playing music too loud at night and I couldn't sleep well. Whatever we say, right? What do you guys complain about? These kinds of things, right? How was your weekend? Oh, it was a great weekend. Why? I went to this great place for brunch. I had a bad weekend. Why? Because this person said this, right? Anyway, I thought one time, it might be nice nice to try. Just see how your coworkers react. You know, you say like, well, let's just say you do practice patience once. Yeah. Do you? Sometimes? Yeah. Then you say on Monday, like, oh, I had a provocative situation happen over the weekend. Someone cut in front of me, you know, in the car, you know. I was about to get mad, angry, but instead I practiced antidotes and I dispelled my anger, and therefore it was a great weekend. So anyway, given that samsara is such a dreadful place to be in, right? Then you see, this Hinayana Arhatship, right, what Shariputra attained, okay? Now, you can, all of you here in this room, you can attain that state of nirvana in this life, if you train hard enough, right? If not this life, then like the average kind of, you know, average intelligence, average effort, 3 lives. Okay. Then even like the lazy, you know, okay, let's not criticize people, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The lowest of the low, well, not the real lowest of the low, they're still practicing Dharma. The lowest of the low Dharma practitioners, 16 lifetimes. 16 lifetimes. Okay. Now, compared to beginningless rebirth, right? Beginningless rebirths, then, you know, 16 lifetimes is like a rounding error, right? You know? Yeah. The denominator is, you know, infinite. Then whatever you put up top, it's like still equals 0, right? Yeah. So, that is what is required for, you know, to be free of all of the samsara suffering, all the problems you've experienced. Once you attain nirvana, you never have to experience any of that again. And, you know, it's kind of within our reach, right? Now, the Mahayana. So, like the kind founder, Shakyamuni Buddha, he said he trained for 3 countless great eons. 3 countless great eons. Have you heard this? No? Okay. So, actually, when I heard about it the first time, it was very strange because you have countless, but then there's 3 of them. So it's like, how do they know that there's 3 if they're countless? Okay. But then in some of the commentaries, what it is, you know, countless means, you know, 1 times 10 to the 59th power. I saw it in my commentary. Okay? Right? So, it literally is countless. Okay? And, okay, countless great eons. Right? So then, what is even an eon? And some of you might have read, do you guys read here sometimes the Samgata Sutra? Right? There's all these analogies. Right? They ask the Buddha, oh, what is an eon? And he says, okay, here's an analogy for you. Okay? You get a mountain, however high, however many your jhanas high, yeah? Right? Let's say Mount Everest, okay? Then you build a shack next to it, okay? And then every time 100 years passes, someone goes to the tip of the mountain and with a, a silk cloth wipes the top of the mountain. Okay? Every 100 years. Okay? So, just think that. So, there will be some erosion from that, right? Very slight. Okay? So then, imagine how long it would take for just someone doing that, for then the mountain to completely, erode, disintegrate. Think of that? Now, an eon still wouldn't be finished. That's 1. Okay? Yes? Then, the Buddha also says, like, if you take a hair and you go to the ocean, and then you put the hair in the ocean, and then maybe a little bit of water stays on the hair, right? A little bit. So you do that, and you count how many, drops it would take, like that. Even if you exhaust the entire ocean by removing the drops in that way, still an eon would not have passed. Okay? So now think of that time. It's mind-blowing. Now think of that times, times 10 to the 59th power. Okay? An unbelievable amount of time. Okay? So, then, by the way, when you really think about how unbearable samsara is, you're like, okay, sorry, it's your own problem, like, I'm just going to get nirvana. It's a risk. It's a risk. Yeah? So how then do we avert that? How then do we, not just say, okay, I guess I'll sign up for Mahayana, not something kind of lackadaisical, but how do we get enthusiasm? That is the key to the Mahayana mind training. Okay. So you see here in the kind of subtitle, annihilating the demon of the self-cherishing mind. Okay. So this self-cherishing mind, okay, has a special significance in this context. Okay. Where the self-cherishing mind is this thought that, we are more important, even slightly more important than sentient beings. Okay? You understand? So let's be honest. Okay? Sentient beings, how many are there? Countless. Right? You, just one person. Right? So if we acted like a third party kind of just judge, observer, who's more important? One or countless? Countless, right? Okay. Now, what happens that, right, when it's the me, when it's the I that becomes that one, then our calculus is totally different. Right? Or even we might say, oh no, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, right? JFK. But actually in our actions, I'm very fond of telling this story, but it's very important whenever we're studying to try to relate it to our own actions, our own experiences, so it kind of comes alive. So this is really one that hit home for me. Mimi's heard this before. But I used to live in New York, right? New York also has many beggars, right? So I'm, walking on the street, I encounter a beggar. He asks for money. I say, oh, sorry, I don't have any change. And he says, well, I take 20s. $20 bill. So, you see, even at that time, right, there is some kind of, I want to benefit this person, but our instinct is, okay, do I have change? Do I have an amount of money, right, that is so insignificant that, if somehow that I lost all the change and fell out of my pocket, that wouldn't change my, purchasing power. That wouldn't change what I could do at all. Right? So when it comes to benefiting sentient beings, it's like that's the kind of scope we're thinking of. Right? Well, not you guys maybe, but that's what I was thinking of. And you guys see for yourself, right? Do you guys have examples from your own life like this? You know, it's like, yeah, there's just these horrible floods in Kerala, right? Over 400 people die. You know, it's right next door to where I stay. You know. Then I go to the train station. There's all these scouts with like help Kerala. Right? Same thing. It's like, man, I don't even have a 10. Okay, I'll give him a 20. I'll give him a 20 rupee note. Rupees, not dollars. I'll give him a 20 rupee note. It's like so painful. We wanted that 10. I've graduated from the change, okay? Okay, I've been training. I'm not like, okay. I'll give some money that folds. But it's like, oh, no 10? Okay, I'll give him a 20. So painful. It's painful. But then like I go to the city and then I'm like, can I admit something? I've been having a little bit of a donut craving, right? I went to Krispy Kreme donuts in Bangalore. One donut, 80 rupees. And it's so easy to justify, right? So tasty, right? I'll spend that. Then other people dying, need their whole lives need to be rebuilt. It's so painful. To just, to give them basically the amount of money as one bite of a donut, much less one donut. You understand? So this is the real thing, to think, right? To really think, oh, that is a self-cherishing mind at work. That is a self-cherishing mind. Okay? No need for a complicated philosophy. That is it. Okay? Alright. So now, what? Is that so bad? Why are they calling it a demon? Come on. You telling me I can't have donuts anymore? Huh? The Buddha's trying to take away our donuts? No, you see. Why is this a demon? So you see, as Shantideva says in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, you see, until we're able to exchange ourself for others, there will be no enlightenment. And even in samsara, there will be no peace. You understand? Okay. So, it's like this. Enlightenment is paradoxical, right? But enlightenment actually is the ultimate fulfillment of ourselves, of our own purpose. It's our own highest accomplishment. It's our own highest happiness, right? So have you heard? His Holiness Dalai Lama says, well, if you're going to be selfish, be smart selfish. Yeah. Yeah, wisely selfish, right? So actually, we want the best for ourselves, but we're too attached to donuts, right? Actually, the best for ourselves, if we really want to be, our best friend. Right? Again, how His Holiness says, right? If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Right? So by overcoming this incessant preoccupation with ourselves, then actually we attain the state of enlightenment, the highest happiness and benefit. You understand? So that's on the kind of big picture. Then even on a smaller scale, right, this self-cherishing mind, you see, even within samsara there is no peace. Right? If you really investigate and analyze, it is this mind of always, me, I, me, mine, right? That is the one that is totally buffeting our experience, totally ruining us from a day-to-day basis. And then, of course, you start to expand a little bit more, then, all of the negative karma that we accumulate, we cherish ourselves more than the other, and therefore we steal, right? We cherish ourselves more than, our partner or husband, whoever, and therefore we cheat, right? We commit sexual misconduct. Right? We cherish ourselves more than the mosquito, and therefore we swat it. So everything, and then due to those actions, we experience the suffering result of that. Okay. So. It's like we've been the slaves. We've been the slaves of the self-cherishing mind. Means every time the self-cherishing mind, kind of gives us that command, we've been following it from beginningless lifetimes. You understand? So, where has it gotten us? Right? Have we achieved our own happiness? Have we achieved our own happiness? Forget about the happiness of others. No way. No way. So, the donuts were great in Bangalore, but now today, I want more donuts, You understand? So, demon. Because just like a demon, right, if we're under the spell of a demon, we're going to do things that are actually destructive to ourselves and others. The self-cherishing mind is just like that. As long as we're under the control of the self-cherishing mind, we're only creating more problems for ourselves and others. Therefore, since this demon of the self-cherishing mind is the barrier, the obstacle for our attainment of enlightenment, we need to annihilate it. How? Through this type of text. Okay? This is Mahayana thought training. Okay. That was the title. But you see, if you get the title, actually it's all there, right? So just follow along with me, the introduction. Actually, what we should say. The Tibetan root text was by Langri Tangpa Dorje Sengye, and it was translated by Lama Tutan Zobar Rinpoche. Okay. It is customary, to also give a short biography of the author of the text. I'll just do a little bit. Okay. So this Langri Tangpa, a great Tibetan master, then he came across, oh no, am I confused? Yes, I'm confused. I'm thinking of the author of the 7-point mind training. Okay, I have a story about him. Anyway, Langri Tangpa was the story about him. But, so, he was actually known as Langri Tangpa Gloomy Face. Gloomy Face. One time, the Dalai Lama, in a question and answer, because Dalai Lama is so jovial, right? Then someone in a question and answer is like, oh wow, thank you so much. You're always so happy. It's so inspiring. Like, I want to practice Buddhism because I want to be happy like you. Something like this. He's like, well, although you might practice, you won't necessarily become very jovial like this. And then he told the story of Langri Tangpa. It's actually one of the great Tibetan masters. He was known as Gloomy Face. Right? And then his students then went to him and said, you know what they're saying about you in town? They're calling you Gloomy Face. They're always like scowling and all this. And he said, what is there to smile about when suffering sentient beings are drowning in the ocean of samsara? But he did, it is said, he did smile once. And what was the cause of that? Okay, so these mandala sets? Yeah, mandala. Do you know them? Anyway, there's these, the mandala. And then they use like stones. You might, if you've gone to Bodh Gaya, the people they're dropping stones, wiping it down. Anyway, it's a representation of the entire universe. Okay, so as they're offering the mandalas, they're thinking they're offering the entire universe, pure lands, to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, on separate from the group. Okay. Anyway, so Langri Tangpa had his mandala set on his altar, and you should offer the kind of best substances there are, right? So oftentimes you'll see pearls or turquoise. Turquoise is really big among Tibetans. Okay. So Langri Tangpa had a nice piece of turquoise in his mandala set. Then there's some mice who come. They go up on the altar. They knock over the big turquoise, and then there's a hole in the wall where they live, and the hole is a little bit up. Okay, so then one of them, the mice, is trying to kind of with a head lift the turquoise, and can't do it. It keeps falling down. So then another mouse comes and they're trying to do this thing, and so Langri Tangpa just sees this and starts laughing. So I think the Zen koan would be, what was he laughing about, right? So in my estimation, normally the story ends like that. But what I think, you want to hear? What I think is, he saw that as a total kind of, microcosm or encapsulation of samsara. Right? It's like somehow that mouse, right, thought they would be better off, thought that piece of turquoise would bring them happiness. It somehow was attracted to them. So then engages in all this effort, right? Gets the friends involved. And I'm not sure they're even able to get it in the wall, right? That's the thing with samsara, right? Most of the things that we think are going to bring us happiness and we exert so much effort in getting, we actually are unsuccessful, right? Yes? Huh? Does Katrina Kaif, return your phone calls? Huh? Right? But, okay, even if, let's say, the story ended with those mice being successful in getting the turquoise on the other side of the wall, then what? No better off. So, I think, seeing the whole futility of it, it's very easy actually to see it in relation to others. With ourselves, it's like, no, I need that turquoise. I need that crispy cantata. Okay. Sorry. Usually when in teachings like this, when they talk about the biography of the master, it's about like the good qualities and all that. But anyway, you get to see a little bit. But let's go on. What follows is an 8-verse teaching that contains the entire technique for transforming the mind into relative and absolute bodhicitta. Okay? So here, bodhicitta, bodhi, enlightenment, citta, mind. So the mind of enlightenment, for kind of shorthand definition, is the mind wishing to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay? So it's important to know there's two desires associated with bodhicitta. Yes? One is the desire to benefit sentient beings, and the second is the desire to attain enlightenment. And they're generated in that order. The mind that wishes to benefit all sentient beings, and not only that, takes personal responsibility, right? I myself will free all sentient beings from suffering. Okay? That's what's needed. Then you inquire and you say, well, in my current situation, I'm unable to do that, but the Buddha is able to benefit sentient beings, and therefore that's what I need to achieve. Okay? So, those two are very much needed. If you only have one or the other, it's not full-fledged bodhicitta. Right? So even you have the wish to attain enlightenment, so that, your old enemies will be jealous at you or something, right? Won't qualify as bodhicitta. So then, that bodhicitta that I just described is what we call relative bodhicitta, or kunso denpa. Absolute bodhicitta is a mind that directly perceives the ultimate nature of reality conjoined with relative bodhicitta. You understand? Remember how I was saying that the root of all of our suffering is this distorted view of reality? Well, no, not the self-cherishing. Okay, well, hold on. Thank you for saying. The root of our suffering isn't self-cherishing.
It's ignorance.
Ignorance, misperceiving reality. Okay, because these Hinayana Arhats, see, they've abandoned suffering. They've abandoned samsara. They haven't abandoned the self-cherishing mind. Right? So they're free of suffering, but they're not Buddhas. But the self-cherishing mind is the primary obstacle to the attainment of bodhicitta. Right? Because we have to say, I'm going to forego, I'm willing to endure more sufferings within samsara so that I can, go to this higher, more, lengthy and elaborate goal of full enlightenment. Okay? So, the root of samsara is the ignorance that misperceives the status or how phenomena exist, the ultimate nature of reality, which is shunyata, which I think you might have heard about. Okay? So, the ignorance reifies or projects a mode of existence above and beyond what is actually there. It projects inherent existence, true existence, ultimate existence, existence from the object's own side. If we had more time, we would talk about what that means in more detail. But actually, the 8th stanza will talk about that. Okay? So now, you see, the lack of a phenomenon's inherent existence is its ultimate mode of existence, is its ultimate reality. That will act as a direct antidote to the mind that grasps or believes in the inherent existence. You understand? The root of samsara is to believe in inherent existence. A mind that realizes that the object grasped to by ignorance doesn't exist will serve as its direct antidote. You understand? As I've said, the analogy, the monster in the closet, the child gets very afraid. Oh, mommy, there is a monster in my closet. Okay? Does the monster in the closet exist? No. What does a skillful parent do? They go to the closet, open the door, turn on the lights, say, look, there's no monster. That realization of no monster is the direct antidote to the mind that held the monster to exist, right? Okay, so just like that. The root of samsara is a mind that holds on to inherent existence. We then analyze, does it exist in the way that this ignorant mind holds on to it or not? We discover at the end of our analysis it doesn't exist. And therefore, the mind that believed in it will go away, will be abandoned. Okay? So, that realization is needed even for the attainment of nirvana. Right? Understand? Then, of course, it's needed for the attainment of full enlightenment. But it only will become, that meditation, that realization of the ultimate status of phenomena, will only become the cause for full enlightenment when it is conjoined with the relative bodhicitta, with the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Then with the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, we meditate on shunyata, it becomes the cause of full enlightenment. If we meditate on shunyata with the wish or the desire for ourselves to be free from suffering, it will become the cause for us to be free from suffering, but it won't become the cause for full enlightenment. Okay? Nice. And once we realize it conceptually, we continue to meditate. At some point, it will become a direct realization. Yeah? So then, that direct realization of shunyata, or the ultimate reality, which is conjoined with, or motivated by the relative bodhicitta, is ultimate bodhicitta. Okay? And both those two bodhicittas are very much needed because they act as the main cause for the attainment of the body of the Buddha as well as the mind of the Buddha, the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya. Okay. It was composed by Langri Thampa Dorji Sengye, a disciple of the virtuous friend, perfect in all knowledge, Kadampa Potawa Rinchen Sel, who in turn was a disciple of the holy lamp of the teachings Atisha Dipamkara. You've heard of him? One of the great Nalanda masters who traveled to Tibet after the teachings had declined and sort of re-established the Buddha Dharma in Tibet. Okay? Atisha himself got the teachings on Bodhicitta from Lama Sirlingpa, they call him. Lama Sirlingpa. It's an island in present-day Indonesia. Yeah? So anyway, yes, there's a lot more to be said about that, but in general, Atisha, he traversed the seas, the oceans at that time, and said his boat ride took 13 months. Anyway, whether that is the case or not, he undertook that journey seeing the importance of Bodhicitta and made it his core practice. And anyway, these mind training teachings come from him, or through him. Of his, means Potala's 8 heart sons, Langri Thakur was the only one to receive the special instruction on exchanging oneself for others. Okay, I'll talk about that in a little bit, okay? So then the practice of these teachings has 3 divisions: the preparation, the actual practice, and the completion. The preparation. Seated comfortably, generate a particularly virtuous motivation. Then do a glance meditation of the Lamrim teachings from the beginning, devotion to the Guru to the end, or with heartfelt feeling, contemplate as follows. Okay, so these are the instructions whereby you can do this practice on a daily basis would be great. Morning, noon, and night would be better, or as much as you can. So, sit comfortably, right? Doesn't need to be in full lotus or half lotus. Of course, it's good to do that. And then, what I like to do, what I suggest is, that brief motivation that we had at the beginning of this, we can do that like throughout the day. But especially we can do that in the morning when we wake up, and then we can do that in the beginning of every session that we're doing, either Dharma studies, meditation, any kind of practice. Okay? So the brief motivation would be, purpose of my life is to benefit all sentient beings. I want to benefit all beings in the best way. I need to attain enlightenment. Therefore, I need to accumulate the causes of enlightenment. Therefore, I'm going to undertake this practice. Something like that. You can be more poetic. Okay? But that's the bullet points. Okay?